Most cannabis companies don't have a marketing problem. They have a compliance problem pretending to be marketing. You could even spend $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 on ads a month. Get banned on Meta, get your domain flagged, get your email domain flagged, lose your Instagram accounts. And all your retail sell-through will still stay flat. Meanwhile, a brand with 0 paid ads gets into 50 stores because they understand how cannabis actually gets attention legally. I'm Chris. I've spent over 20 years in wholesale cannabis. I've held one of California's early distribution licenses. I've built and sold a licensed grow, and I've launched 2 licensed brands into over 100 licensed retail stores. Now I teach founders how to launch and scale cannabis brands legally without needing a license. Faster, smarter, and with fewer costly mistakes. According to JP Morgan, only 9% of businesses will ever reach $1 million per year in revenue. That means that most businesses don't. Not because they can't, but because they never master execution, strategy, or discipline. And I'm not here to guarantee that you'll be in the 9%. I'm here to give you the blueprint. And whether you use it or you waste it is on you. And remember, we go over this daily inside my Telegram and school communities, and the link's in the description below. The hard truth about advertising cannabis. One of the things about it is you can't run paid ads. Say if you're gonna launch a clothing line, a supplement line, creatine gummies, anything that you can run ads around, you can't do that for cannabis. So you already are at a disadvantage against other consumer product brands. Next is retail stores don't care about your social media. It's a great addition, but social media doesn't sell products in the retail stores. It may help build awareness for it, and it's definitely required as a brand. You need to do that, but you need to position your marketing budget and prioritize retailers first before making cool content for the internet. Retailers ultimately care about sell-through. So distribution and velocity are your main levers. When I say velocity, it's how quick are you selling through the product that you actually sell to the store. And so I look at this as selling into the store is one thing. That's what your brand salesperson is for. They're gonna communicate with the buyer, make sure that your brand's getting the attention it gets inside the store. But the true person selling it off the shelf to the customer is the budtender. And this is time and time again, it doesn't matter what store you're at. This is just how cannabis works. And your biggest marketing budget should be spent towards educating budtenders, rewarding the budtenders, getting samples to the budtenders. This way the budtenders become loyal and incentivized by your brand. And not incentivized like you're paying them off, but they're part of the brand. They have some investment into it. They understand what your brand stands for, what you're selling, how your brand's positioned, the unique value proposition your brand upholds, the demographic that your brand's speaking to, understanding what makes a good ideal customer for your brand, teaching them that so now they can identify that when those ideal customers are at the counter, and now they understand, a light bulb clicks, are like, oh, this would be a perfect person for Zodix, or this is a perfect person for Lowski. And teaching them not only what the brand stands for, but who your ideal customer profiles are, and what are they looking for, and what is the value proposition that the brand is leaning into to communicate to your ideal customer profiles. So that's just one aspect alone, and the budtenders are going to be your front of the line force for your brand. That's your number one marketing budget right there. When brands rely too heavily on IG, you're gambling. You're gambling a lot. And especially if you're putting your IG name on your marketing assets, if you're putting it on your packaging, if you're putting it on rolling trays, stickers, things like that, your IG account can disappear overnight. And so not only are you doing yourself a disservice, all that marketing that you did and spreading that word and putting that IG name out there, once it's gone, it's potentially gone for good. Or if not, you might have to pay $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to get it back. And it's no joke. And I've had to do this for multiple accounts of mine, and it's a big deal when they go down, and it really sucks. However, you can't have your whole business rely on that. And there's definitely a lot of brands out there that rely heavily on their IG presence. So it's great to have. However, get in the habit of owning your audience. And the best way to do that is start collecting their contact info, email, phone number. And you want to build these profiles of these groups of people, these contact groups, but understand where are they coming from? Are they coming from events? Are they coming from your website? Are they coming from free samples you gave away that in exchange they left their contact info? So understand the motives behind these different groups of contacts that you're collecting. And there's strategies to do that, and there's ways to do it effectively, almost automatically, as well as have them tagged automatically. And these are all strategies we go over not only in my free community, but in the paid community as well. So whatever is your best fit, click the links below, check that out. Other than that, I'm giving away tons and tons of free content here on the YouTube. So consume all that and at least subscribe to the channel. You're gonna get a lot of value out of it. Okay, the only framework that matters for your brand should be attention, trust, and access. Let me dive into what that exactly means. So for attention, earned organic channels is much better than paid channels. And this is like paid channels being running ads, buying followers, paying for placements, paying for shout outs. Those are all great ways to get attention in certain aspects, but truly your organic following is gonna be worth so much more because they're there because they wanna be there. They're there because they resonate with you. They're there because that's the demographic that your brand's speaking to. But when you're just getting shout outs by people, when you're just running ads, you're almost forcing them to look your way. And now some of those are actually gonna turn into long-term supporters, don't get me wrong. But the value, the density value of your organic traffic versus your paid traffic is always gonna be much, much better. So focus on your earned channels, your organic channels, before you focus on paid channels. And a lot of times your organic stuff that performs well, just boosting those or putting some ad spend behind those organic posts will work better than an ad that's developed and designed to actually be ran as an ad. So a lot of times focusing on your organic will automatically transition you into better ways to run paid traffic as well. Next is local attention is much more important than national attention early on. And I say this because it's the same strategy from the music industry. And as you may know, I've spent 13 years in the music industry, running a studio, managing artists, and I resonate a lot with how success in the music industry translates to success as a brand owner. And one of these concepts that is synonymous with the music industry as well as a brand operation is becoming big locally first, getting known in your city, in your main city that you're closest to. That's more important to focus on before scaling nationally. And the reason why is you dial things in, you get things figured out, you get your team accustomed to things, you get them warmed up. It's like you're practicing. And then as you grow, you start traveling out further and further and further, and now making a presence in different cities, and now creating a following, and now building your IG following nationally and then internationally. And so this is a core strategy that not only works in the music industry, but also works for cannabis brands too. And a lot of the strategies I talk about where getting your brand out there without owning a license will work in these other states as well as these other countries. So you're not doing it as a lost cause either. You're actually building a foundation for you to then go launch your brand in these licensed markets as well. But it all starts with local attention in your closest city that you're part of, that you can be there, you can be boots on the ground, you can have your team there, you have your locals that you already have your networks there. So it's super important to have that credibility locally first. The other key point under the attention aspect is retail adjacency is the fastest attention to trust. So when you can go into a store and show that your product's being sold in the store, it automatically gives you more credibility than if it's just a brand being sold on the street. The point of that is just being in a handful of stores, 5, 10, 20 stores. You don't have to be in hundreds. Just being in 1 or 2 stores even just shows that you made that step, that you've elevated your brand to the next level. And now, even though you're on the lowest level of that next level, you still have some room to grow within that level. That's fine, but you still graduated to that next level. And that's more than a lot of people can say that they've done. And like I was saying in the beginning of the video, to reach $1 million brand, to reach $1 million business, that's less than 100,000 a month. It's like 85,000 a month or so. And I'm talking about revenue, not profit. So obviously, as most healthy businesses, you want to target around a 30% profit margin. So if you're hitting 100,000 in revenue per month, that means you're profiting close to around 30,000 or so, ideally with a healthy business. And extrapolate that over 12 months, you're going to be a little bit upwards of $1 million in revenue a year, which will translate to about 300,000, $250,000 plus or minus per year in profit. But out of that $1 million in a year, that's market share. That out of that total market, your brand is responsible for $1 million of sales, of product sales. And that's holding those corporate brands away. You're pulling that back from them. So that's important, and that's important to understand, because it's not about the money you're making, it's about the market share you're having. And just that alone, like I was saying in the beginning, only 9% of businesses are going to hit that. So it's really about that dedication, that entrepreneurial spirit, understanding that you got to go all in. There's no half-assing it. There's no weekends. Let me work on the weekends, or let me work on it after hours or something. Maybe that works in the beginning to just get it up off the ground, but there's going to come a point where you'll be faced mentally with certain costs, certain commitments, understanding that if I go forward with this, there's no turning back. If I go buy, a bunch of packaging from China with this strain name and this brand name and this, that, and the other, whatever, you're locking that in, you're solidifying that. So understand, those decisions just keep compounding on each other. And then you're going to be looking at 6 figures into your brand. And you're going to be saying like, wow, I've really invested a lot. There's no turning back now unless I just shut the whole thing down. And that's the thing with a brand. It's like an engine you can't shut off. Once you establish it, once you get your momentum going, you have to retain that momentum to some degree. That's going to require you to maintain some form of marketing budget. And this is the biggest thing that a lot of people look over. And marketing means a lot of different things. And like I said, it's not about social media marketing. Yes, that plays a part. It has its value. It's definitely needed. It can't be overlooked. But your whole marketing strategy shouldn't revolve around social media marketing. It should revolve around budtender education, attention, awareness. And this is done through educating the budtenders so they can make the customers who actually buy the product at the counter aware and get that attention on your brand. So retail adjacency is the fastest attention for trust. And that's why I say trust in the market, proof of concept, trust to other people that other people are smoking it. This is important. So next is trust. And for trust, there's a few ways to convey this. First and obvious is compliance proof. Showing your COAs, showing your test results, understanding how much terpenes is in this, how much THC is in this, what the pesticide panel is looking like, making sure it's clean. That's all trust assets. And this transparency from the lab shows consistency. If they can say consistently, this weed is always testing above these levels, it's always got its terp percentages in place, it's in that 2% range, which is above average. Understanding where your pesticides are at, making sure there's no molds in there. This is all important part to a lot of customers. They want to make sure that they're getting clean, consistent access to product, and they don't want to be fooled by it either. And that was the issue with the hemp market, with the THCA market, is a lot of people are running off of dubious tests in a sense, because the hemp market allowed you to apply one test for the whole year. In the cannabis market, every batch needs to be tested independently. So you're ensuring every single batch you get in the cannabis market is passing these tests. And so this is a trust asset. Another important trust asset is social proof and reviews. And you can get this at events. You can get this from stores. Ideally, if you can get your brand ambassador in stores as people are buying it, especially if they're repeat customers and get that on camera, that's worth gold. That's very important. So it's about everyday average level consumers, not influencers, nothing like that. Just run-of-the-mill people that are walking into dispensaries and happen to be buying your brand or buy your brand consistently. If you could get them on camera talking about why they do that, the reasons why, it's going to be powerful for your marketing. So that's some components of trust. And that next point is access. And this could be store access, making sure the stores have reorder access, budtender access, having access to the buyers at the stores. Because just those 4 alone right there, having access to the store, being able to reorder with that store, having access to the budtenders so you can train them and mold them about your brand, and having access to the buyer consistently. That way you can make sure that you get those reorders. And that's that 4 quadrants of the flywheel there. And this is access. That's super important. That's gold. That's worth money to you. So having that store access and having that buyer access is the key to getting your brand in the store. But then having access to the budtenders to train them and get them to the level where they can be a frontline salesperson daily for your brand, that's where you get the reorder access. And that's the trick to this whole thing. Another piece to access is event access and community access. And you can't fake this. You can't make this up. So being able to get into some of these events, I've even had people ask me, other brand owners, like, bro, how do you find out about all these events? And I'd tell them like, yo, I just get asked to be at these events. People want the brand to be there. And he offered me money, upwards of $5,000 to pay me for me to just let him know about all the events that I do and get him in touch with the person. I was like, look, bro, I don't want to take your money for that. And I can't sit here and be responsible for your brand's marketing. So I just gave him a few tips and I told him like, reach out to these people that throw these events and get into those networks and show support. Try not to be cheap. Try not to cut corners. Try not to haggle too much and be an asset, provide value. Provide value first in any situation is going to help you so much more than if you come to the table like, what can you do for me? What can I get from you? You don't want to be like that. You want to come opposite. What can I provide for you? How can I help you first? What's value I can bring to the table? And that way you see the value that I bring and you're going to want to return that favor. So event access and community access, that's the other thing. You can't fake being friends with people. You can't fake the community. You can't be a corporate Chad and come into the cannabis community and just be accepted like no one's going to notice. You know what I'm saying? So the community is powerful, and that's what keeps your independent brand relevant, and that's what keeps it top of mind for the people that it matters for, the people in the community. And before you start any heavy marketing campaigns, make sure you plug up any sort of operational leaks that you may have. Because if you have these operational leaks, your marketing dollar is just going to go to waste. And this could be things as making sure your pricing is dialed in, whether or not it's too high or too low, making sure you're at the right spot for the market and the value and what your brand is selling. Also, understand your true COGS, your cost of goods sold, which ultimately is saying what's your final landed price to that wholesaler. And not only was it the price to them, but what was your cost included in that price and what's left over. Truly, not just estimate or, oh, I think it was that, or I bought it for that and I paid about this. And so there should be about this much left over. No, like down to the cent on a spreadsheet, understanding exactly what your cost of goods are and exactly what your profit margin is, your net profit margin. So I can't stress this enough, trying to cut corners, trying to be like, oh, well, I'm a hustler. I never kept notes. It's, not good to. And I was the same way. It was tough for me to really change my thinking to track all this data that if you come from the old days, you were trained by your peers like, bro, don't keep any notes, don't keep any records. And now in the license days, you have to keep more records than most businesses when you're talking about compliance, taxes, track and trace, seed to sale. It's like there's way more that we have to do than what it used to be. So don't cut those corners. Know your true landed costs, know your true cost of goods, know your true profit margins. And also when you're dealing with stores, build a price ladder, not one price fits all. So have your floor price, have your list price, have some wiggle room in between, and have some reasons why you would give that wiggle room. Maybe if instead of dropping your price, you give them extra units, some promo units, some Budtender samples, and that brings their dollar cost average down, but your invoice price is still the same. Your listed price is still the same. So that helps with, financial data for yourself internally, potentially. It may help with if you're trying to raise money or if you're trying to sell the company, and you can show that your sell price is still this high, even though you're giving away some promo units, but that's acceptable, but you're still listed at this price and you're invoiced at this price. So that's strength for your balance sheet. So building a price ladder is important, not being too rigid on that, because some of these big chains, these big stores, they're gonna need better pricing. They're gonna need better price breaks, or they're gonna need more Budtender samples because they got more Budtenders or more promo units or more store support, more brand support. So these are all ways to lean into the value that you can provide up front. Next is to protect your margin with strategy and not discounts, but with, whether that be, like I said, promo units, PADs, Budtender training, merchandise, even providing merchandise in store to customers that buy your products. That way you're not discounting your products, but you're still enticing them to get more. Another thing is you gotta understand cash flow a bit. And a lot of these stores are gonna want net terms where you have to basically front end product for a bit. And net terms is a slippery slope, especially for an up and coming brand, a new brand. Cash flow is your lifeblood. These net terms can kill you faster than any competition can. So you need to over plan for these net terms. If you set 30-day net terms, they're supposed to pay their invoice, don't even think about it for 60 or 90 even. Understand that if they don't pay me for 90, I can still make it. Also, inventory can turn, it can go bad. We're talking about perishable products here. So understand that if you don't, especially in the beginning, if you don't have that sell-through velocity and you don't want to ruin your brand value and sell old weed, you might have to buy that stuff back. You might have to, get that off the shelf, give it to some Budtenders, take it off, swap it out for fresh product. But you definitely don't want to ruin your brand. So you got to understand, like, okay, I might have to absorb some losses these first few batches as I get my brand out to the stores, as train the Budtenders to it, train the customers to buy it, and understand that you need to be willing to absorb that loss and not be a penny pincher and not think like, oh, I need to sell that before I put more out, but you're just selling bad weed and you're ruining your brand. Next is compliance. Any sort of marketing asset or branding asset, you want to treat it like a regulator is watching. And I had to do that just now with my new packaging order. Some packaging guidelines changed in California, and I'm launching in other states as well. And these other states are more strict about their packaging. So some of my stuff could be misconstrued about appealing to children. So I had to take certain things off. I had to remove packaging elements that have been on there for a while, update some things, roll out these new boxes to keep everything more plain. So the point is, you have to think 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of these regulators. You don't want to have products out in these stores, then all of a sudden a regulator flags it in one store and now calls in a recall statewide. That's a huge loss, huge loss. So you want to stay ahead of that. You don't want to have compliance issues. Also on your website, speaking of compliance, is having an age gate on your website, as well as any email, automated email, whether you're signing up for a newsletter, and ensuring at the bottom of your email that's intended for people over 21. Same on your website, making sure no one can even pull up on your website unless they agree that they're over 21. Another thing when it comes to compliance is making sure not to make any medical claims. So you can't say this cures something, this helps with this helps with that. No. You also don't want to appeal to children whatsoever. Like I just mentioned, I had to revamp a bunch of my packaging to make sure I didn't get in trouble for anything. No one said nothing to me. But launching in these new states and seeing their laws, I'm like, man, I just need to tone it down on all my packaging, make it cohesive, make it sure that it's not appealing to children. And this is important, not just for your packaging, but for your marketing, for events you're doing, any online type stuff. It's very important. Okay, let's jump into the reality of working with retailers real quick. First of all, buyers want predictable fulfillment. So do distros. They don't want stuff where it's sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't, or you sell out and you're not gonna have more for 3 weeks. They want predictable flow. They wanna know that if they run out and they built this demand for it, that they could get more and keep filling that demand. So predictable fulfillment is important. I know there's brands out there that leaning heavily on scarcity drops and only having certain amounts, and that's fine for certain product lines, but you wanna have your core foundation, predictable fulfillment, to keep that shelf space, and then you just pepper in, here and there, some different exclusive drops, but you still have your flagship products being able to be fulfilled predictably. You also want on-time deliveries and clean invoicing. And clean invoicing means a lot, because this could even come down to doing promo samples up front rather than offering a store discounts on the back end. So think about that up front. Let's say the store says, hey, we're doing an anniversary sale for our store. We're gonna do 20% off everything. Do you wanna participate? You're like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. So instead of you invoicing them all full price and then coming back around after and saying, okay, how many did you sell that day at 20% off? And then they got to go through their accounting team and then send it back to your distro. And then that distro has to issue them a credit on the next pickup. And you have to track that. And it just becomes this huge headache of credits. And so stores actually appreciate not having to do credits. So instead, maybe you can gauge like, okay, well, each delivery, we're giving you this much product to last you for 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever. So if you're doing this 20% off sale, we'll give you 20% off this many units, or we'll give you extra promo units and invoice this all up front. So that way that 20% sale, that's already packed into that invoice. They don't need to go back and do accounting credits and send it back to you and have you credit it back on the next invoice. It's just too much of a headache for both parties. So clean invoicing is important, and also on-time deliveries. And that's gonna fall a little bit more in your distro, but as a brand, it's important. One of those metrics on deciding which distro to work with is their timeliness on deliveries, their ability to follow these retailers' instructions, because some retail stores will have specific timelines for deliveries. And if they say we only accept deliveries on Monday, Wednesday, Friday between 2 and 4 p.m., and the delivery truck gets there at 1 p.m. or 5 p.m. or comes on a Tuesday, they're not going to accept it. And they have every right to, because they've already warned you about this. And like I said, this falls more on the distro. So unless you're doing your own retail distribution, it's not something you're going to have to be worried about too much. But you want to make sure your distro that you're working with does worry about it and respects that, because nothing gets a bad taste in the store's mouth if you're trying to go outside of the rules that they set. And it's their store. They have the ability to set those rules. And a lot of times it's not like a power grab. It's not like an ego trip. It's like they have certain reasons for that. Maybe their inventory people aren't there that day. Maybe between those hours, they have people that are on breaks and stuff before and after that. And those are the hours where they're fully staffed. It could be any number of reasons why you don't understand why, but you just need to respect their request. Also, making sure your compliance is on point. With your metric transfers, your track and trace transfers, your COAs. Make sure there's no last minute changes or updates to the manifest, to the transfer manifest, where some mistakes might have happened, or they miscounted this, or this is the wrong strain name, not attached to this COA. Like, all these little nuances are very costly for both sides. So you want to make sure you're working with, again, this is more so going to fall in your distro, because they're going to be the one that's doing the invoicing and doing the deliveries and actually picking and packing your orders and dropping them off. So ensuring that your distro has proper protocols in place, that they know how to handle this, they have a track record of handling this. Another great way to identify that is seeing some of these bigger brands that the distro might be distributing for already, and understanding like, okay, well, this brand is in pretty much every store throughout the state. They have a big presence. They're always stocked. If your brand's coming out and you're going to do self-distro, that means that every store that you get into, now that store has to onboard that new distro. That's a new invoice they have to deal with. It's a new delivery they have to deal with. It's a big headache for the store to just take on a new distributor. Versus as a new brand, You go get on with one of the top 3 distributors, that distributor is doing deliveries to that store no matter what. Whether your brand's on their roster or not, they're going to be going there every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday. They're going to be showing up to this store, dropping off all the other brands that they distro for. So as a retailer is much more inclined to work with a new brand that's on a bigger distro that they're already receiving orders from, because it's easier for them. It's one less invoice. They just add your brand now to the same invoice that they're getting anyway. It shows up at the same time with all the other brands that the distro is delivering. They can do all the intake of the inventory all at the same time. It's just so much easier rather than, okay, this distro brought in these 4 brands and then this new distro brought in this new one single brand. It's like they'd rather have all 5 brands at once. That's one less intake. So as a new brand, don't try to do everything yourself. That's another reason why you don't need to go do your own distribution to retailers at first. It really doesn't make sense. It's also very costly, especially if you're only doing it for one brand. You have to get your drivers out there. You have to send all these trucks on the road. You have to get special insurance, Department of Transportation sign off, all these different things for your distro vehicles. It's just better to pay the 10, 12, 15%, let someone else handle it and just make it clean. So the stores respect that too. Okay, let's talk a bit about competition. I don't like to highlight competition. I only want to see friendly competition, if any competition, but truly creation is more powerful than competition. And as a brand, we're creating our brand to speak to a specific demographic. Not any brand does well that speaks to everybody. So my brand speaks to a certain demographic. This brand does, this brand does, this brand does, this brand does. There definitely might be some overlap between some of those demographics, but there's a different unique value proposition if your brand foundation is built out properly. And this is why it's so important to build your brand out properly, because it defines what your brand stands for, the demographic it speaks to, how it speaks to them, how it shows up differently than other brands. And just doing that alone will set you apart so much further that you don't even have to worry about competition. It just nullifies it. Doesn't even make it a big deal. Let them do their thing, get in their lane, you do your thing, stay in your lane. But if you're trying to knock off this guy or always outcompete him, or, oh, they got a new jar, I got to get a new jar. Oh, they did this, I got to do this. Fuck all that. Carve out your own lane, do what you do, define your audience, provide what sets your brand apart, use different wording, use different positioning, use different messaging, use your uniqueness, your creativity, and that's what will set you apart and negate the competition. And one thing I really got to stress a lot is building trust with your consumer base, with your unique demographic, is so much more valuable than trying to discredit someone else. Trust equals sales, and you can't build trust if you're showing up inconsistent. So if you show up inconsistent with your brand, how it looks, how it appears, the messaging, the positioning of it, what it stands for, the product development, the product lines, all these things, it's all just evidence that just adds up to trust or no trust. And when there's no trust there, there's no sales there. So doing your own unique stuff, your premium branding, your value, it doesn't matter which side of the fence you're on. You just don't want to confuse the people. You want to make sure that they can clearly understand it. They can trust what you're saying. You deliver upon your word. And that's all. It's simple. It's just like in life. Just do what you're going to say and say what you're going to do. Same as a brand. Next part of marketing is going to be scaling. And the best way to scale as a licensed brand is repeatable onboarding for stores, repeatable training for budtenders, and repeatable reorder triggers with your distro or your sales team. And by setting these up properly, not only are you going to get the store onboarded easily, they'll have all the brand assets that they need. They'll have any requests that they may need that's unique to that store. You'll make sure you train them on the brand, get them any in-store marketing assets they need, get them set up with their samples, their initial orders, budtender trainings. That's another very important thing to make repeatable and systemized. That way, all your budtenders in all these different regions are all getting the same training, Even if it's not coming from the same person, you can systematize it to train your brand ambassadors, your salespeople, or your brand reps in that area, how to properly train them. And then the other thing is repeatable reorder triggers. And this is important with your distro, so that way it's not lost in a sea of text or someone like, oh, I thought I messaged that over. No, you want repeatable triggers, such as through software or actual orders that get submitted through some sort of online ordering portal. But really, the most effective way is having your sales team out in the field at these stores, visiting them on a regular cadence, and getting these reorders from the buyers directly. And when they put it into the system, it sends it to the distro, and the distro knows now to deliver it to that store, that particular order. So you want to systematize these reorder triggers as much as possible. Okay, next is some ways to run ads legally. And this can really be between owned, earned, or partnered. This is not spray and pray paid ads like if you're launching a clothing brand. Owned is your email and SMS with age gating and compliance language. Your website is a location and education hub. And your packaging is like a billboard in the store, or even if you're passing out samples at events. And then if you can get product cards with your QR or on your packaging, that's even better to bring your customers back loyalty, customer loyalty programs. Next is earned. And earned marketing is stuff like Budtender advocacy and word of mouth, reviews, UGC content from actual adults, consumers who actually buy your brand, press in actual outlets that matter, not national hype that you can just pay for. You can go pay for articles in Forbes if you want, but I'm talking about real press that's true. Educational content that's product adjacent and not product pushing. And that's another earned marketing aspect. Next is partnered marketing. And this could be events, compliant events, brand collabs with other industries or other influencers, retailer pop-ups, PADs is what we call them. And this can include staff training as well as doing a pop-up at the store, greeting the customers coming through. So this is partnered marketing. And another partnered marketing would also be community partnerships and sponsorships. And this could be for private events, groups of people, certain causes, charities, all sorts of things. So you have earned, you have owned, and you have partnered. And it's pretty straightforward, but these are the core marketing concepts that as a cannabis brand, you really have to lean into these and pretty much ignore paid. Don't think you can do paid. Focus on these organic ones. And not only that, but nowadays, these organic ways are actually paying off better than paid ads are. I know people that are running tons and tons of paid ads and their return on ad spend is just getting lower and lower and lower. So don't look at paid ads as the answer. And speaking of which, here's a quick strategy that you don't have to focus on ads. Choose one region, get your brand in 10 flagship stores. Don't worry about any more. Focus on weekly sell-through at those stores. Don't worry about how big their invoice was. Run Budtender education there like it's an ad campaign. Create reasons for reorders and don't create a launch story. It's more important for the reorder than to get in the stores. And some examples for reorders are limited drops with predictable cadences, some kind of bundle strategies that products, that protects your margin, category leadership claims backed by data, just like how Zodix is positioned as a leader in luxury cannabis. No one's really truly defined luxury cannabis aside from Zodix, and we meet all the definitions to the fullest. So we have data to back that claim, and it positions the brand as knowing luxury cannabis is about taste first. And as the leader of luxury cannabis, we're focused, our main priority is on taste. So that promise of consistency and fulfillment brings that data back full circle. And while we're talking about it, I'm gonna touch on Budtender marketing a bit more because in my opinion, I feel it's the most ignored ad channel in cannabis. especially for new brands coming into the licensed space. They're not understanding that this is the way to go about it. And if you really think about it, the budtenders control choice and substitution at the shelf. And what I mean by that is if a customer comes up, a lot of these customers are new, or they're not in touch with cannabis, let's say, or they don't understand these new products or new brands, or what's a good thing for sleep, or what's a good thing for hunger, or they want to have a sativa, etc. So they're coming asking these budtender questions. The same as if you bring your car into a mechanic and you're like, hey, it's making this weird noise when I go over 50 miles an hour and I press on the brakes. He's going to have some insight to that you didn't have. And if not, he's going to take it on the test drive and be like, oh yeah, that's your CV joint or something. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, okay, he knows what he's talking about. So it's the same with a budtender. You come in, you say, yeah, I want something that's really going to boost my creativity. And they're like, oh, you know what? I just tried this OG Diesel from Zodix. Not only is it really great tasting, but it gets you really zoned out and in a creative state. And now they're going to try that. They're going to take it home. They're going to have a good experience. And now that they're going to come back and they're going to trust that budtender again. So that's why it's important to train your budtenders, train the stores, focus on those stores you're in. Try not to get into 100 stores first. Just focus on your core 10 or 20. Dial those in, get your processes dialed in, learn the ropes, and then start scaling more. And when it comes to the budtenders, train them on the effects and the reasons and the benefits behind it. It's not about features and hype. It's about the benefits. What are they getting by doing that? So think about it. A benefit versus a feature with the same thing. A feature would be, this helps you go to sleep. A benefit would be like, try this before bed so that way you can sleep longer, get a solid night's sleep. That way the next day you're up and ready for work, more attentive, to be able to make more money, to have a better family life, to be less stressed, etc. So you're showing the shift that product creates because it helped you get better sleep, rather than just saying, oh yeah, you want something good for sleep? Here. So teaching the budtenders these things, one little misunderstanding can be the difference between consistent sales and not consistent sales. Because all it takes is one customer to like your product, and now they come back and they're a repeat customer. And the vice versa. If someone's told, oh, this is going to make you go to sleep, but it doesn't, or they're told that it's going to be a sativa and keep them up, and then it makes them fall asleep, it's going to look bad on the budtender potentially, and it might even put a bad taste in the mouth for the brand. So training properly budtenders is very important. And don't train on hype. Don't be like, oh, it's the best tasting weed ever. Train on, we always focus on making sure our terpene content is above this to ensure that we have a great taste and experience with the luxury cannabis. So you want talking points that match your customer's intent. And another thing when it comes to the budtenders is you want to respect the store rules. Again, every store is different and they have certain reasons to do certain things. And this could even come down to budtender incentive programs. Some stores don't want to have any sort of incentive programs where you'd say, hey, I'm going to give a bonus. Every eighth that gets sold, I'll give the budtender $5. Or the first person to sell this many eighths in a month gets tickets to the local basketball game or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Or a trip to Hawaii or whatever. You can make these incentives, the sky's the limit pretty much. Unless either in your state they don't allow budtender incentives, or the store itself, regardless of the state, some stores don't even want budtender incentives because now it creates internal competition between the budtenders, which could be a good thing or a bad thing for the store depending on their overall focus. So respect the stores as well as the laws. If you're not allowed to even do it, don't do it. But if you can do it, definitely do it and figure out unique and creative ways to do it. Let's talk about content a bit because that is part of marketing. And so content that converts in cannabis, there's really 3 buckets. There's education, and that's what it is, who it's for, why it's better. But you got to be careful on online. You can't be telling people to use stuff. So it's a very fine line. And you also want proof assets too. COAs, customer reactions, stories with timestamps, processes of how it's made, retailer stock proof, store locators, real customer quotes from compliant channels like Trustpilot or Yelp. Avoid any hard claims, avoid any before and after health talk. Anything that targets minors, obviously avoid. Anything that implies guaranteed incomes or changes in health or states, really just want to avoid all that. And look into the meta guidelines for IG. There's certain ways that you can actually post cannabis content, but you can't teach them how to do it. You can't do DIYs like this is how to roll a joint, because you're encouraging them to consume it. That's how they look at it. But if it's just a lifestyle thing where you're just walking down the beach, smoking a joint, it's a bigger thing. It's not about the joint. It's about the atmosphere, the energy, the vibe. They'll let that slide most likely. But if you're sitting here talking about specific things, showing packaging, saying like, try this weed, it's some of the best tasting out there, that's probably gonna get flagged. If you're watching this far, it means this video is definitely aligned with you. And if you could use more help and my assistance in crafting these plans for your brand and helping your brand transition from the unlicensed market into the licensed market without having to own a license, click the link below, set up a call with me. We'll get on, figure out a game plan for you, and see if it's worth pursuing. Okay, for some action steps, let's map out a simple 30-day plan with no paid social required. So first, you want to audit your compliance on every asset. Make sure it's compliant. Next, make sure your website's compliant, get the age gate set up, and set up your opt-in for your email collection. Next, build a store locator so people know where to find you. Then create your Budtender educational programs. That could be the training stuff, your Budtender incentive programs, etc. You also want to map out some common FAQs for your brand, both for customers as well as the Budtenders, so they know what to say. So that's week one. The second week, pick your 10 stores, walk in with a sell-through plan, not a pitch, schedule 2 trainings, and lock in an event, a PAD or a pop-up, and just focus on that. So you got your brand already in 10 stores, just focus on how can we sell out of those stores as quick as possible, and part of that's going to be by setting up an event. Next is launch some educational content tied to your store availability. You also want to drive opt-ins with a QR on your packaging to collect email addresses and phone numbers. You also collect feedback from the Budtenders and customers whenever possible. During this week, you also want to track velocity of sell-through at your stores. You should be tracking this every week. How much did you sell last week versus next week? What's your percentage of increase? Once you have your velocity levels tracked for each of your stores, now you can double down on the 3 best ones and now create reorder triggers there. Really hone in on those. Focus on the Budtenders there, focus on the buyers there, focus on in-store marketing there, focus on extra PADs there. Really dial it in and scale it as much as you can in each location. And then do this to another set of 10 stores using proof from the first 10 stores. And if you document this along the whole way, you're going to be not only building your playbook for your brand operations, but also SOPs in order to train new people for you to scale this process throughout the state. So most founders think that advertising is about getting attention. In cannabis, it's about earning trust and winning access. And you do that with compliance and discipline, as well as retail execution and a brand that can deliver consistently when the shelf demands it. So if you want exact strategies, you want exact materials, how to set up these retail velocity systems, join the Telegram and the school community, as well as book a call with me below. The link's in the description. My objective with all this free content I'm putting out, with the educational content, with giving out all the game that I've spent literally over $1 million on, learning through the hard ways, from owning licenses, launching multiple brands, getting my brand scaled up. This is not stuff that can be taught in regular school by just average business person. So understand that this content is unique, and I appreciate the support for that. And if you want further assistance in getting your brand out there and really building this into a long-term business, That's why I'm doing this, is I want to help 1,000 brands collectively take away $1 million per brand in market share, which collectively is $1 billion that us independent brands can take away from the corporate operators. So that's what this content's here for, is to just help as many of those people do that. And I want to see you succeed. I want to see more entrepreneurs, more money, more abundance, more wealth. And there's enough for all of us. There's enough to go around. So it doesn't have to be scarcity. It's not like if you win, I'm going to lose. And I'd rather teach you what I know so that way you can go do it. Teach others, help your family, help provide opportunities for your friends, for other people that don't have those advantages. And help bring good products to people who want them too while you're doing it. It's a win-win for everybody. So I appreciate the support. Click the links below, follow my real Instagram, join the Telegram, join the school. There's just tons of endless value. So appreciate it, and best of luck on your journey.